Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fitaurus Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have Grand Brix Shooter, a self-described bullet hell fusion shooter. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. Recently released, Grand Brix Shooter from developer Intra Games is available for the PC via Steam and for the Nintendo Switch, which is the version we'll be looking at today. So the core mechanic of the game is this fusion system, which ultimately, at least to me, feels like this grandiose weapon swap system. But you can go and kind of judge for yourself based off of what we see. Let's dive in. So there's a couple different modes we can play the game in. The arcade mode, which you go and play through the 10 stages via the story, and then the challenge mode, which kind of mixes things up a little bit and also gives you some perks for continuing to play through it. It goes and increases your various stats. Then we have a couple other various modes that we can look at here, or not necessarily modes, but your collection, scoreboard, achievement, the usual icing to go and kind of show you how you're doing through the game. Diving into arcade mode, which is how we'll look at the game today, you've got a couple different play modes. And then if you've started a game and you happen to go and finish midway through by just returning to title, then you could go and pick up where you left off. And I love features like that, so it's great to see that here. Then you have also the ability to go and change your difficulty. You've got normal, hard, and there's also a very hard difficulty that you can unlock. Starting the game itself, when the first time through, you will get some story peppered throughout your runs, but at this point, once you've gotten those stories, it looks like they're not there anymore, which is kind of a weird touch. So the mechanics are rather basic. It's a horizontal scrolling shoot 'em up where we're moving around, not super fast. You do gain speed when you don't fire, but the main mechanic is, as I mentioned, that fusion. So throughout the stage there'll be these pod ships which will go and drop other fighters that we can swap with, or there are also sub-bosses in every stage that will drop other fighters that we can once again swap with. And that's the core mechanic, because each different fighter has different types of attack, different specials, and you can level them up. In addition to that, when you swap fighters, you also restore your health. So your health is that green bar in the middle of the stage, or the screen at the bottom. To the left, we have our 2 meters. So the blue meter with the squares that fill up at the end is our special, which we can go and charge by dealing damage to enemies, and then once it's charged, we can unleash it for the number, or rather the power, that we have for filled squares. And then underneath that, we have our level. So every fighter that you pick up goes and starts at level 1. As you pick up these little stars, which different colored enemies will drop, so you've got your main colored enemies, in this case blue. If we go and defeat red enemies, then they'll drop those stars, and then we can level up our fighter. Each time we go and pick up a new fighter, we start at level 1 yet again. So I just swapped from the Genocider, which happens to be one that I really like, to the Phoenix. It's not bad, but it's not the greatest. So here we are against our first boss, Driller. So there also is a combo meter that at the top of the screen that builds as we destroy enemies, and as we pick up experience stars or continue to go and deal damage to an enemy, that meter will stay at its current multiplier. However, if we get hit, the multiplier will reset, or if we don't destroy enemies in a fast enough time frame, that'll also reset. So we can also use our special. For the Phoenix, it's got these awesome waves that sweep in, these lasers that sweep in a wave to go and deal damage to the enemies. We'll swap to the Trooper here. So the various fighters either look like starfighters, or some of them look like mechs, like the Trooper here. So the Trooper has missiles that fire at the enemy. Then if we build up our special, then we do a really powerful, kind of like Gatling barrage. And all the different fighters have their own special that way. There are actually quite a few, though. There are 14 different fighters that you can potentially get. There are 10 that are available from the base game, and then as you play through the game, you'll unlock additional fighters there. So the additional 4 fighters have certain requirements. One of them is complete the game on normal. Another score 10,000 or no 10 billion points. Another take so many hits from the enemies, and another is level up 300 times. And those unlockable ones happen to go and be significantly more powerful. Stage 2, Chaser. So that's what we have here for Grand Brix Shooter. So for the most part, I feel it's a relatively enjoyable experience. It's not the most innovative shooter. Like I said, I kind of feel like the fusion system is really just a glorified weapon swap system, where each time we go and swap to a different weapon, we have well, of course, you know, you've got your different weapons, you've got your different specials, it's like those games where if you swap weapons, you have to go and start rebuilding your power for that weapon from level 1. The thing that does make a difference is that also happens to be how you recover your health. So there is a certain strategy of like, do I want to go and keep this ship that I'm doing really well with, or do I need to go and swap to a different ship to go and recover my life? Oh, one thing I forgot to mention though, the special does go and clear enemy bullets, and they regenerate at different rates. So certain ships will go and have the specials charge up really fast, others not so much. So I feel like the ones that recharge pretty quickly are very, very desirable. Ooh, so the Squall here is one of the unlockable ships, and as such, it is significantly more powerful than a lot of the other ones you can pick up. So there you have it. Grand Brix Shooter served up for your enjoyment. So as far as minus flavors are concerned, I haven't really talked about this yet, but it's worth noting that when you run out of lives, you can restart the stage at the beginning of the stage, but you'll restart at the state that you finished the last stage at. So if you happen to only have 1 hit left, you'll start the stage with like basically 1 HP, very, very close to death. And that gets frustrating as the stages themselves, and this is my other minus flavor, the stages themselves are relatively samey. The enemies are kind of like the same thing just over and over again, and the real meat of the game is the boss fights. Chaser here as an example. So like, then that's pretty similar for a lot of bullet hells, where the stages themselves are just these interludes as you wait to get to the boss fights with their awesome patterns. So I feel like it's a huge disservice making it more difficult to get to the bosses by making you have this weakness for having finished the stage at a lower HP point. And that's really like my big one. Then, as far as plus flavors are concerned, I love the boss fights and even the mini bosses as well. And having all the different weapons or different fighters is kind of neat as well. And there is like that just like slight element of strategy in their fusion system, like of knowing when to swap versus when not to swap. So at the end of the day, if you're looking for a horizontal shoot 'em up that does things a little bit differently, then this one is worth a try. I don't feel like it's super innovative in what it goes and does, but it is an enjoyable playthrough. There's just some of the elements about the way that it handles continuing things can just get a little bit frustrating. Alright. That'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for coming out and joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.